When gardens need walls, the unspoken architecture of self preservation. There's this thing we do as women, especially as Black women, where we hold our breath so long we forget what oxygen tastes like. We walk around with our shoulders somewhere near our earlobes, our calendars bleeding into each other, our minds spinning like slot machines that never pay out. And deep down, buried under all that motion, there's a whisper asking, when exactly do I get to exhale? I want to tell you about someone who stopped whispering and started building. Her name is Kawanda Hannah. She's 47, a single mother of five, and she's walked through every circle of hell you can imagine and a few you probably can't: homelessness, abuse, drugs, incarceration, violence that left scars you can see and wounds you can't. Three toxic relationships back to back to back, each one a masterclass in what happens when you forget your worth has a price tag that reads priceless. And yet, here she is, not just surviving, thriving, teaching, healing, making this world softer and safer and more honest for Black women everywhere who've been told to be strong when what they really needed was permission to be whole. Kawanda's message is sharp enough to cut glass. Never give up and never settle for less than you deserve. And that's what we're unpacking today: self love, boundaries, and the radical, life altering truth that when you create space to grow, you stop shrinking to fit into places that were never designed for you in the first place. Let me be transparent. This is not a fluffy conversation. This is not about scented candles and bath bombs. Though, if that's your thing, by all means, light that lavender and soak. This is about the deep, sometimes uncomfortable work of looking at your life square in the face and asking two questions that will change everything. Who am I doing this for? And what am I tolerating that I absolutely shouldn't? Because here's the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud: self love without boundaries is just a hashtag, it's a meme. It's something you double tap on Instagram and then scroll past while you say yes to 17 things you don't have the bandwidth for. And boundaries without self love, those feel like punishment, like you're locking yourself in a cage instead of building a sanctuary. But together they become the blueprint for a life that doesn't drain you, a life that actually feels like it belongs to you. Kawanda shared three truths with me, and I want you to tattoo them on your soul. First, love yourself enough to say no without guilt. Second, boundaries aren't walls, they're gardens for your growth. And third, your worth isn't up for negotiation ever. Let's sit with that first one for longer than is comfortable. Love yourself enough to say no without guilt. How many of us have said yes when every cell in our body was screaming no? How many times have we shown up exhausted, resentful, stretched so thin we're basically transparent because we didn't want to disappoint someone? And here's the part that'll make you laugh if you don't cry first. Half the time, the person asking didn't even notice we were struggling. They just knew we'd say yes because we always do. We're reliable like that, dependable, the one who shows up, the one who carries, the one who never drops the ball, even when we're juggling chainsaws on fire. But what if we didn't? What if we loved ourselves enough to protect our peace the same way we protect everyone else's feelings? That's not selfish. That's survival. That's self respect. That's the beginning of a life that doesn't require you to perform your own disappearance. Now, let's talk about boundaries as gardens, because this image does something to me. Gardens require intention. You don't just throw seeds on concrete and hope photosynthesis does the rest. You prepare the soil, you water with consistency, you pull weeds that don't belong. You protect what's growing from pests and storms and well meaning people who want to pick your flowers before they've even bloomed. Boundaries work the same way. They're not about shutting people out, they're about creating the conditions for you to bloom. And sometimes that means pulling up roots that don't belong there anymore. Sometimes that means saying, I love you, but I can't carry you and me at the same time. And I'm choosing me today. And that third truth, your worth isn't up for negotiation. Listen, if you've survived what Kawanda has survived, if you've been through homelessness, abuse, violence, incarceration, toxic love, and you're still here, still standing, still believing in better, then your worth is not a debate. It's not a discussion. It's not something you need to prove or earn or justify. It's a fact. And anyone who tries to convince you otherwise doesn't deserve access to your energy, your time, or your magic. Let me tell you about Dr. Cindy Mtunga. She's a Black woman physician from Tanzania who spent years chasing an idealized version of herself. Perfect career, perfect image, perfect everything. The kind of perfection that looks stunning in photos but feels like suffocation in real life. She wasn't happy. She was stressed, anxious, disconnected from her own worth. The pressure of high professional demands had convinced her she was never good enough, never doing enough, never being enough. So she enrolled in a self love program that taught her something revolutionary: honor your real self, flaws and all. She calls it being flawsome. I love that word. It's honest, it's whole. And here's what happened when she stopped performing perfection and started practicing presence. She returned to a grounded, loving space. She started making decisions from peace instead of panic. And that shift didn't just change her life, it rippled outward. 82% of the participants in that program reported meaningful self acceptance shifts. 82%. That's the power of self love, creating space to grow. That's what happens when you stop rejecting yourself and start protecting yourself. Here's another story that'll hit different. A survey of Black women in mental health found that only 26% had mentors, even though 77% believed mentorship was critical to their success. Read that again. 3 out of 4 women knew they needed support, but only 1 in 4 had it. These women were facing burnout, limited advancement, and the kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying the weight alone in a system that wasn't built for them to thrive. But the ones who sought out mentors, who set boundaries around their time and energy, who prioritized their self worth, saw incredible outcomes. 63% credited mentorship for their career mobility. Depression symptoms decreased, retention increased by 20 to 30%. Performance and leadership improved by 70%. And here's the thing: mentorship isn't just about career advice or networking events. It's about having someone in your corner who reminds you that you don't have to settle, that you deserve support, that boundaries aren't selfish, they're necessary, that saying no to what drains you creates space to say yes to what sustains you. Then there's the research on social workers, a group that includes many Black professionals in high stress, undervalued, often heartbreaking roles. Burnout was rampant, self efficacy was low, absenteeism was high. These were people pouring into communities while running on empty themselves. But when these workers received personalized recognition letters that validated their worth, everything shifted. Well being improved by 17%, absenteeism dropped by 22%, performance rose by 12%, self efficacy jumped by 23%. Burnout decreased by 41%. Turnover dropped by 31%, all because someone took the time to say, you matter. Your work matters. You are seen. That's what self love looks like in action. That's what boundaries rooted in esteem can do. They don't just protect you, they transform you. They remind you that you're not a machine designed to produce and perform until you break. You're a human being worthy of rest, recognition, and radical care. So, what does this mean for you? What does it mean for the Black woman listening to this right now who's juggling a full time job, kids, aging parents, a business, a ministry, a marriage, a friendship circle that demands constant emotional labor, and maybe, just maybe, 5 minutes to herself at the end of the day? If the universe is feeling generous, it means you get to stop, you get to breathe, you get to say, I'm not doing this anymore, not out of bitterness but out of love. Love for the woman you are right now. Love for the woman you're becoming. Love for the life you're building that doesn't require you to break yourself to hold it together. Kawanda's challenge to you is simple but bold. Start small. Say no to one draining demand today, just one. It could be a meeting that doesn't serve you, a favor you don't have the bandwidth for, a conversation that leaves you feeling emptier than when it started. Say no. And then journal why you deserve more. Write it down, make it real, make it yours. Watch your growth unfold in real time, because here's what I know to be true, what Kawanda knows to be true, what Dr. Matunga learned, what those social workers discovered, what those Black women in mental health are proving every single day. Self love creates space to grow, and setting boundaries is necessary, not optional, not nice to have, necessary, like air, like water, like rest. You're not required to be strong all the time. You are not required to carry everyone. You are not required to shrink so others can feel comfortable. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to bloom without apology, without explanation, without permission from anyone but yourself. So here's my invitation, and it's non negotiable. Step into your soft girl era, not as an escape, but as a reclamation. Reclaim your time, reclaim your peace, reclaim your joy, reclaim the version of you that doesn't need permission to exist fully, loudly, unapologetically, softly, powerfully, authentically. Self love creates space to grow, and setting boundaries is necessary. Say it with me. Write it on your mirror. Speak it over your life. Live it out loud. Build your garden. Pull your weeds. Protect what's growing. And watch yourself bloom in ways you never thought possible, because you are worth it. Every boundary, every no, every moment of rest, every ounce of softness, every act of self preservation, you are worth it. Now go build something beautiful, starting with you.